if you get caught in a riptide and the riptide, it kind of pulls you out and sends you down the beach, if you fight it, that's when people drowned. But if you just allow the water and you just kind of float, it will suck you out. It'll be kind of scary, but you've got this. It'll suck you out and then it will spit you back on the shore down the beach.
Right.
And that's like anxiety, is if you can just allow it to inform you, like, oh, this feels really, really yucky. My heart is pounding. I feel like I'm going to pee my pants. I feel like my head is going to explode. I feel like my throat is closing up. I notice it. I don't like it, but I'm just going to hold space for it. It will swell. Usually emotions come in increments of 30 seconds to 90 seconds. So maybe you even count. Just count it out. I know this is going to pass. And then it will.
Hi, this is Tim Westbrook. Welcome to I Love Being Sober. We talk about life in recovery, mental health, biohacking, alternative therapies, and everything related to living a kick-ass sober life. So let's dig in. Today's guest is Dr. Nicole Kane, ND, MA, a leading expert in trauma-informed and integrative mental health. She's a licensed naturopathic physician here in Arizona, has a background in clinical psychotherapy, is trained in EMDR, and takes a truly multidisciplinary approach to emotional wellness, medical, psychological, and holistic. Dr. Kane is the author of the acclaimed book, Panic Proof, where she reframes anxiety and panic not as something to suppress, but as intelligent signals from the body pointing us toward healing. This conversation goes deep into trauma, the nervous system, gut health, neuroplasticity, spirituality, and what real panic freedom actually looks like. Dr. Kane, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Really happy to be here.
So before we get into the conversation, what originally pulled you into anxiety and trauma healing?
I think for many of us, we're the wounded healers. And I grew up in a very stressful environment. My dad is a Marine, and my mom was the daughter of very taciturn Dutch people.
Okay.
So that's for people who don't come from Dutch culture. It's very much like suppress, don't talk about it. And then if it does come out, it's usually anger or avoidance. And
so you push it down until there's an explosion?
Yep. And so as a little person, I felt like my job was to help my parents to not feel so stressed, to not feel so angry. And so I became a master at paying attention to little nuances in their behavior, like, oh, when dad does this, it means he's getting annoyed. Or when mom does this, it means she's feeling overwhelmed. And so then I would try to jump in and manage that. And of course, learning those patterns, taking that responsibility is a lot for a little person. And I myself started to become more and more anxious and more stressed, but I didn't have the language for what that was. I just thought that there was something wrong with me. And ultimately, it got to the point where I was having all these physical symptoms. So my parents finally took me to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh, you have anxiety. Here's a pill." And then by the time I went to college, I was on 6 different prescriptions, and I wasn't any healthier, and I didn't have the language for what was going on. My symptoms were problems to be solved. So your anxiety is bad. It's a problem. We need to stop it. Or your nasal congestion is bad. It's a problem. We need to stop it. Your asthma is bad. It's a problem. You need to stop it. And ultimately, I decided to try to fix it myself, became a therapist. That wasn't working. Went to medical school. And it got to the point where I don't know if anybody here also resonates with that. We end up at this rock bottom place where we have to make the decision of, I continue on this road, which isn't working, or I have to do something different. It was the metaphor of the phoenix burning to ashes and building that up again. And that started a whole new road, which ultimately resulted in this book where I write about everything I learned by looking at traditional medicine, by looking at trauma-informed medicine, looking at how the mind, the body can actually heal, and being here with you today.
Now, when did you notice, what age did you notice that you were, I guess, because it sounds like you had to be in control. Like you had to pay attention. It's like when dad does this, I need to do this. When mom does this, I need to do this. And when did you notice you were doing that?
Ooh, no one's asked me this question. There's a moment, and we lived in North Carolina, and we had to drive all the way to where my dad was stationed in Iowa.
Okay.
And my little brother and my mom were in one car, and it had fuzzy seats, and it was nice. And I knew my mom better because my dad had been deployed. He'd been away in Japan, so I didn't know him very well. And he had his old Chevette with the fake leather, uncomfortable kind of cold material. And I remember we were sitting at a gas station passing sandwiches through the window, and I remember thinking, I wish I could be in the car with mommy, but I don't want daddy to be sad.
Okay.
And that was the moment where I sort of had this meta awareness that I wasn't acting in my own agency, that in a sense I was putting myself in the back seat so to please and care for somebody else.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, was drugs or alcohol ever part of your story?
Not personally, but I did try to therapize a lot of my friends whose stories involved that. I was so afraid of my dad. And he was very authoritarian and if I was to be caught, the consequences for my dad terrified me. So I was kind of like the little cheerleader on the side. And so a bit by proxy.
Okay. Walking on eggshells.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know for me, I learned being in recovery that God's in control.
Yeah.
Tim doesn't have to be in control. And call it God, call it your higher power, call it the universe, call it, there's something bigger than me. And when I realize that I don't have to be in control, then life is just so much easier.
Oh, that's hard. There's still that part of me that as I hear that, and I'm very logically aware, my adult Dr. Nicole self is logically aware, yes. And there's still this other part of me that's like, how can I control the not being in control? And noticing that difficulty in the fear and the chaos of not being in control. And I wonder if others feel this way, but when we're younger and we are ultimately not in control. Our caretakers tell us what to eat, when to eat. They help us go to the bathroom. We come into this world largely out of control for the longest amount of time of any mammal. Puppies. I have a 4-month-old puppy. She's like pretty in control. She's a lunatic. She's kind of in control.
Yeah, right.
But humans, we're out of control for much of our lives. And so I feel like often I don't want to go back to that. I want to be in control. But it's like this pendulum swing of powerlessness and control, and chaos and control. So it's how do we recreate a new identity with acknowledgement, acceptance, allowance, and not having to be in control all the time. That's hard.
Right. It's like in the 4 agreements, we're domesticated, right? So we're domesticated and we learn how to operate.
Yeah.
And then so becoming reprogrammed is part of the process. And awareness is 90% of transformation. So first you're aware, and then once you're aware, you can actually take steps to change.
I love the language of reprogramming that you're using, because we are all programmed.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if anybody's heard of the story of little Alfred, the little kid. Has anyone heard about that? So they did this study on how humans we could be programmed. So they took this little baby and they plopped him in front of a bunny rabbit. Right? You guys remember this? I hear some people, yeah. So the bunny rabbit's really cute. We love bunnies. Bunnies are fluffy. They bring us eggs, right?
Yeah.
They don't really. So he's like, oh, the bunny is so cute. And he's really happy. And they're like, okay, little baby Alfred likes the bunny. Then they changed this. They don't do this really with humans anymore because it's not very nice. But what then they did next is they plopped Alfred down, they showed him the bunny, and then they blasted a really loud sound and startled the baby. And they repeated this until they could put the bunny in front of him, and there was no sound, and he was afraid of the bunny. So he was programmed to associate the bunny with danger. But here's the most interesting part of the study, is that they found that that involuntary response, mind, body, nervous system, was generalized to other fuzzy creatures.
Okay.
So teddy bears, kitty cats. So he had learned that if it's cute and fuzzy, it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the language that you're learning about programming is looking at our symptoms, whether it's anger or panic, or maybe even dissociation, where we just shut down and zone out. What might that be an adaptation in my life?
Right.
Where might that have been useful? Where did that programming come from? Because then the conversation is so much more interesting.
Right.
It's not, don't be anxious. It's, what is this anxiousness trying to tell me needs healing, and how do I get to the roots or the origins of that and realize that that bunny is safe, that there was some rude scientist hitting a bell in the background.
Right. Do you think it's important for a person to dig in and figure out the why?
I see this question, and I think that yes and no.
Okay.
Because I think that oftentimes the body keeps the score, and we can get amazing results in healing when the brain isn't really rationalizing it. And so an example of this is when we do polyvagal work. Has anyone here heard of polyvagal? Polyvagal theory, maybe one or two people, is this idea that our nervous system holds on to stress. And as the nervous system releases that stress, our brain likes to attach meaning to it.
Okay.
And so is attaching meaning to it adding value, or is it just getting lost in the analysis paralysis, right? And so what polyvagal theory teaches is if we can teach Albert the baby to regulate his body when he's in the presence of the bunny, even without thinking about the person hitting the bell, if he could just learn to regulate his body in the presence of the bunny, he can get better. And so I like to look at the why. I mean, we have 400 pages of why here. That's my jam.
Right.
And also, I want to encourage people that sometimes it just is. And sometimes we don't have to understand it. We just have to allow it. And as you said, reprogram it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What's the difference between anxiety and panic? And why does panic feel so sudden?
Oh, my goodness. Let's talk about the definitions because this changes everything.
Okay.
So I'm going to add a third to this. So we have anxiety, panic, and fear. Fear is a natural biological response. Thank goodness you have it. Your ancestors, they were eating berries in the woods and the tiger came. And if they couldn't be afraid of that tiger, they would probably become the tiger's lunch, right? So a natural fear response allowed them to say, oh boy, there's a tiger. I need to get to safety. And then they survived and they had descendants and we're all here today, right? So that's fear, a natural biological response that helps us survive. We can fight, flight, freeze, flop, fawn, and fracture.
Okay.
We can come back to that because that's a lot. So that's fear.
And, actually, so when Ken Richardson, the founder of Coda, he talks about fear being on a spectrum. And I don't know if you agree with, or if you've heard this before. So the very lowest level of fear is concern. And he says that's the only healthy level of fear is concern. And you have concern, worry, anxiety, panic, terror, something along those lines. And I don't know if you have an opinion on that.
You were so good at volleying me into my next statement. It's like perfect. Like you're reading my mind.
Okay.
Yes. So that's anxiety. And so anxiety is on a spectrum. Think of it as the green light, the yellow light, and then the red light. So green light is when you're calm. So I'm feeling right now. I'm calm, I'm connected, my body feels relaxed. Some of us don't know what it feels like to be in the green. It's been so long. We're so stressed. We're so irritated, overwhelmed, depressed. We're in pain. But if we can imagine what it's like to be green, that's as calm. And then we go up the spectrum into yellow. There's this moment before the light changes, right? You know, the green light's going, you see the hand counting down, and you're like, oh, the light's going to change. That's the concern. That's the pay attention zone. That's the moment that our bodies start saying, are we getting a little activated? Are we getting a little stressed? Are we going to get anxious? Right? So that's the pay attention zone. That's the concern. And if whatever that causes remains, we'll go into yellow. So my heart's beating a little harder. My thoughts may be future tripping. I may be feeling a little bit rushed, whatever it is for you. I may get a headache. And then if that continues to increase, we may go into the red zone. And that's panic. Panic is when we have that same fight, flight, freeze response, but it's in the absence of actual danger. So you're driving down the road and you have a panic attack. You're like, there's no tiger. I'm safe. I know how to drive. This is fear in the absence of actual danger. And so it can feel like it comes out of nowhere, but oftentimes the body will whisper before it shouts in panic. And so what I like to teach people to do is to practice that mindful awareness of their thoughts, the mindful awareness of their body, so that they can start to become familiar of, okay, this is what it's like for me when I'm calm. Ooh, this is that pay attention zone. Something's getting goofy here. Because if we can start to use our coping skills and to start addressing, like, I need to change my environment, or maybe I need a friendectomy. You know, we might need to make some changes before it escalates and we're in crisis mode. Kind of what you just said.
Okay. I love it. And you say symptoms are like a check engine light.
Yeah.
Why is that such a powerful reframe?
Because instead of trying to avoid them and suppress them, we get to use them as data. And that's really exciting. Here's an example, if I could share.
Yes, please.
Is I was on a Southwest flight. Does anyone here have a fear of flying? I used to have the worst fear of flying. I was on a Southwest flight. We had some bumpy air. And everyone had been calm and it was nice. We were coming into the airport. It's bumpy coming into Phoenix. But this gentleman sitting next to me freaked out when we hit this pocket of air. And he like threw his water bottle across. He was like, blah! And I was like little Albert with the alarm bell. And so I immediately developed this horrible fear of flying, where my body would start to get hot, kind of gesturing at my gut and my chest, and it was churning. So that's my yellow zone. And it would get so bad that I felt like there was electricity shooting through my teeth. I was sure I was going to die. And I'm like chomping ice chips in the fetal position, clutching my Bible and praying that God doesn't take me out. And it all started with that moment. And through the years and the work that I've done is I fly all the time because I live happier in Michigan.
Right.
And I'm able to fly now and I'm no longer afraid. But sometimes when we hit that bouncy air, I may get that little pay attention, like, ooh, I feel something a little goofy. But now it can inform me instead of getting fear of the fear. Now I could say, oh, thank you, symptoms. I hear you. I hear you. I'm listening. And you know what? We've got this. And I can start to utilize strategies that work for me to help me continue to reprogram that, to pet the fuzzy bunny and to remember it's okay. We're safe in a way that's actually correct. And it's the gift of loving and honoring our symptoms.
And so is there something that you do that brings that I guess stops you from getting to the red light?
It is all about the right match.
Okay.
And so a lot of people give me the feedback of, I had fear of flying, and so they told me to just do some breathing.
Okay.
Or I was nervous about my kids going back to kindergarten, so they gave me a Xanax. And they're like, I'm zonked out. or don't tell me to breathe when I'm having a panic attack, right? It's a mismatch of symptoms. So what we want to do is we want to create solutions that match our experience. And my favorite way of doing that is to identify what type of anxiety we have.
Okay.
And what the intensity is. And so I did a whole bunch of research and looked at what the DSM said. And many of you probably heard of the DSM. It's that big purple book they use to give us psych diagnoses, right? The Medical Association loves this big purple book, but it's kind of imprecise. Because if I were to go through each person here today and ask you what's like when you're stressed, it's probably a little different for everybody. But you would all get a pretty similar treatment. They give you an antidepressant, probably not a benzo because they're being more careful about that now. But it's kind of like a go down the algorithm. But if I was to ask somebody and they say, oh my gosh, when I get anxious, I feel pounding in my heart and I feel like my heart's just going to jump out of my chest. If you go to a conventional doctor, they may give you a beta blocker like propranolol. And then the heart doesn't beat as hard. Or if you go to a naturopathic doctor, they may give you theanine, which could be really helpful if you've overdosed on caffeine and you feel anxious. Or if you go to a trauma-informed clinician, then we could do mind-body work and say, okay, well, let's talk to the heart. Let's see what that heart's trying to tell you. And then we start to build your treatment plan. So this is a long answer. But what I love to have people do concretely is get a little bag or a little purse or a little fanny pack and make a panic pack. And then in that panic pack, you're going to put things that will help calm the body depending on your level of stress. So maybe you put a ice pack in there that, you go to Amazon or whatever online retailer you use, and you can get those hiking freezer things. You shake them up and they get cold. So put that in there. It's the size of your wallet. And put in there warheads. Those sour candies, because sour stimulates the vagus nerve in your tongue. The vagus nerve is like your light switch for calm, right?
Okay.
You might put in essential oil if you like the smell of oils. Or you might put in earplugs because sometimes we get overstimulated and we just need to block it out. Or you might put in different rocks or crystals that you like because the grounding of rubbing and feeling something. So you build your resource kit, and if you have a doctor who gives you medications and that's part of your plan, you can use those. And so that's what I would use in emergency situations. But if you're not feeling anxious right now and you're like, but I don't want to feel anxious in the future, we could totally talk about how to start reprogramming that.
Okay. Before we get into that, can you fight anxiety?
Well, you can, but it will win.
Does it work? And it often makes it worse, right?
What you deny will amplify. What you resist will persist. It's like in Michigan. We have Lake Michigan. Has anyone seen Lake Michigan? It looks like the ocean, right? It's so big. And it actually has a riptide. Did you guys know that? I'm a desert girl. I had no idea. I look at the water from afar with respect. Oh, I don't want to get
Yeah.
So when I learned taking swimming lessons, because now I live near water, is if you get caught in a riptide and the riptide, it kind of pulls you out and sends you down the beach. If you fight it, that's when people drowned. But if you just allow the water and you just kind of float, it will suck you out. It'll be kind of scary, but you've got this. It'll suck you out and then it will spit you back on the shore down the beach.
Right.
And that's like anxiety, is if you can just allow it to inform you like, oh, this feels really, really yucky. My heart is pounding. I feel like I'm going to pee my pants. I feel like my head is going to explode. I feel like my throat is closing up. I notice it. I don't like it, but I'm just going to hold space for it. It will swell. Usually emotions come in increments of 30 seconds to 90 seconds. So maybe you even just count it out. I know this is going to pass. And then it will.
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass.
Yeah. So how does one reprogram?
This is my favorite.
Okay.
All right. 4 steps for reprogramming. And this is really fun because we've known this in therapy for years and neuroscience is catching up. And so they're proving that this works. And so it's 4 steps. Step number 1 is we want to get back in the body, because anytime we get activated or triggered, the logical brain shuts down. If I was to pull up a brain scan and project it on the wall, I would show you a picture of the brain, and I would show you how the logical brain, which is the prefrontal cortex that lives behind your forehead, how when we get activated, we don't want to analyze the tiger in the woods. We don't want to think about what kind of tiger is it? What is it hungry for? What is it doing? Where did it come from? What are its ancestors? Does it have pink toe beans or black toe beans? We don't want to worry about the tiger. We just want to have a fear response and get away.
Mm-hmm.
So biologically, when we get anxious or when we get rageful or we get panicky or we get really depressed or get really activated, our logical brain's not on board. And so that's why if someone tells you, well, just calm down, you want to like freak out on them, because logical brain can't do that yet. So the first step is to leverage the body. So that's when you pull out your panic pack and you put the cold around your eyes for 30 seconds. I would count and say, okay, Dr. Kane said this is going to be 30 to 90 seconds. Put the cold pack there. You do your panic things. You breathe. I love the exhales. So you do the body things. I know I need to breathe. We're breathing. And a great way to breathe is just to imagine drawing the square. How do you like to do your breath?
I do box breath a lot. And I was just thinking about, there was a guy that I started seeing in 2016. His name's Larry. I went to see him because I wanted to learn how to run. Because I couldn't run more than, I wanted to do Ironman, and I couldn't run more than 5 or 6 miles. I went in to see Larry, and he said, okay, run from here to there. And I ran, and he's like, okay, stop. You said you're not breathing. And I was like, well, what do you mean? I'm breathing. Like, does everybody know how to breathe? Yeah, you think you know how to breathe, right? And what I noticed, though, after working with Larry, most people walk around with very short, shallow breaths, which leads to anxiety.
Yeah.
And so Larry said, stop running. And he made me go and do Pilates. He said, go do Pilates. I went and did Pilates for a month. And with Pilates, there's lots of things like even yoga, you're supposed to connect to the breath. But really with Pilates, it's every move is an inhale or an exhale. So I really learned how to breathe from Larry.
Go Larry.
Go Larry. Exactly. And now I notice it. I walk around, and most people walk around with very short, shallow breaths.
Yes, that's so true.
Mm-hmm.
And then the body's like, oh, we're in danger. Oh, okay. I got that. I can make a danger response. I got you guys.
Right.
So brilliant. So my favorite way to breathe is actually the minute that I feel a little bit stressed, I just exhale as long and as hard as I can. Just push it all out. And then you can take a nice breath in and you count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4. And then you hold the breath at the top for 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4. The longest sigh that you can. And then hold it at the exhale for 4 counts. And then repeat that. And that's been studied by far to be the most effective thing we can do. And it's free.
Mm-hmm.
Your breath is everywhere with you. There are no contraindications to breathing. It's good. So I love that. So now that's step 1. That was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pick up the pace here. So step 1, we just got ourselves back into our body. So now the brain's like, oh, I can light up logical brain, because now we're not in that acute state. So now your logical brain's back on. So now we get to practice onboarding it. So there's a technique, and we could do this later, but I was telling you about.
Yes.
It's called havening. Has anyone here heard about this? Oh, this is so exciting. We'll practice it today.
Okay.
It works so well. And the idea of this step is that we want to create a bridge in the brain from emotion to logical brain, because otherwise our emotions are programmed to just save us from the tiger. They run away from us. It's really hard to be logical when we're emotionally activated, especially in certain activating situations. So we can literally reprogram the brain to say, oh, when I get on this plane and I feel a little activated, I know how to control that by reprogramming my brain to feel safe on the plane, and now we fly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm on the plane, my coping skill when I notice feeling a little activated and a little goofy is I'll start doing a Sudoku puzzle. It has to be easy because it's really hard to wake up logical brain when it's fighting with emotional brain. Or you could do mental math, or you could say your ABCs, or you could do basic addition, or you can imagine going into Costco or your favorite retailer and picking 10 things that you want to buy. Anything that requires thought.
Okay.
And so that's what you're going to do in step 2.
Okay.
Get my thinking back on board.
Mm-hmm.
Step 3 is now we're going to practice connecting the dots between the brain and the body. So we got into our brain, we woke up logical, so now we can think critically, and now we're connecting the brain and the body. Because the body is giving you all sorts of stuff. Your stomach is turning, your heart is pounding, you can't feel your fingers. So now we're going to connect brain and body. And I feel like psychology for so long has been very here up. And we started with Alfred Adler and the talk therapist. Now we're getting to the somatic treatment where we get to regulate the body. So now we can start to notice, oh, when I get in that pay attention zone, interestingly, the bottom of my left foot always gets hot. So I'm going to just notice the bottom of my left foot. Or I notice when I'm getting a little activated and it gets worse that I can't hold still. I get really restless. So now we're practicing awareness of the body, and we could breathe into that awareness or use a warhead candy into that awareness. We start to pair the brain with the body in whatever way we do. Pilates is a good example of that. And that's step 3. And now step 4. I think this is my favorite one. Step 4 is where we practice panicking.
Okay.
I did an interview once with a lady, and she was an anxiety expert, and she said, Dr. Kane, I don't ever get anxious. And I was like, that's not good. You need to feel fear. Fear is a part of the human experience.
Okay.
So what that means is she's either dissociating or suppressing, or she's living within her window of tolerance. Have you guys talked here about window of tolerance? Yeah. And so it's our comfort zone, right? It's where we feel safe. It's where we can reliably perform. We know the expectations. And so many of us, especially if we also struggle with obsessive compulsive symptoms, OCD, it can be really difficult to go out of that window of tolerance. But what can happen is our world can get smaller and smaller and smaller. So step 4 is practicing panicking, doing things that are safe, that take you out of your window of tolerance. Pilates is an example of this too.
Okay.
Because in Pilates, your heart starts beating really fast, which can be activating for some of us. So you go into autonomic arousal, your breathing is faster, your body temperature raises, your heart beats faster, and then you regulate yourself. You bring it back down, you do the exhale, you cool your body. Another example is if you are a hot constitution person, cold plunges would be awesome.
Love that.
This sounds like hell on earth to me because I'm cold all the time. But Pitta people and Ayurveda, which is like a whole other thing we could get into, Pitta people need the cold plunge. And when you get into a cold plunge, sitting in an ice bucket, that's inherently activating. The body goes in and it's like, what are you doing?
Right.
And instead of fearing the discomfort, you breathe, you hold it, you learn to love it, and then you rescue yourself. And every time, or high ropes courses, we have some of these in the valley. You clip in, it's safe, but holy moly, that's high. And I feel the fear, I allow the fear, and then I rescue myself. So if you practice every step, all 4 steps, and do something every single day, get into the body, practice logical brain, practice interoceptive awareness, noticing what our body is saying to us, and then practicing going outside of our comfort zones, that when panic and fear strikes, that you'll say, oh, I've done this 1,000 times. I know how to panic. I can do this.
I'm going to be okay.
I'm going to be okay.
Has anybody here done a cold plunge?
Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome.
Well, who here is in the PHP house? So have you guys done the cold plunge there? Not yet? Yeah. Okay. Maybe today. It's cold right now. It's like kind of hard. In the summer, it's much easier. Exactly. Yes. I love the cold plunge.
I love that you have that.
Yeah, we have one at our RTC, and we have one just because cold plunge has been a huge, like one of the things I love. And I never heard that before. I never thought about it that way. That's something that makes you panic, and it's like you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Just focus on your breath, and you can get in there and you can do it for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And especially if I haven't done it for a while, sometimes I'm like, I'm going to do it for 30 seconds. And then I'm in for 30 seconds. I'm going to do 30 seconds longer and 30 seconds longer. And I typically get to around 3 minutes.
Oh, that's a huge victory.
Yeah.
I would turn into an icicle. That's why I live here in Arizona half the year. Because in Michigan, it's like a constant cold plunge.
Yes. Okay, the stoplight strategy and anxiety types. And we already talked about green, yellow, and red.
Yep.
Why do tools like deep breathing sometimes fail during a panic attack?
It's a mismatch.
Okay.
So when we're at 10 out of 10 and we're in crisis mode and someone tells you, oh, just do some breathing, it's not enough. So we need more crisis appropriate resources. So if you have time today, get out a piece of paper and write down, what is your green light? What does it feel like when you're calm and grounded in your body? What helps you stay calm and grounded? For me, it's absolutely time outside, putting my feet in the ground, petting my dog, and then write down what it's like when you're yellow. Ooh, I notice that every time I go into Costco, I get in the yellow. It's like overstimulating me. People run me over with their carts. And so breathing.
Walmart's worse.
Ooh, touche. They gotta go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Walmart's worse. And so breathing would be helpful for that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we go into the red and we go into crisis, we need our own crisis toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, in my crisis toolkit is I have a therapy dog, I have kava tincture that I take,
Mm-hmm.
and I have exercises that I have figured out that work for me. And so I would work with your therapist or with your doctor and figure out what might be helpful in each of those moments so that someone doesn't tell you, oh, just breathe. And then you feel like nothing works. You feel hopeless because it's a mismatch.
Okay. Different types of anxiety. Did we talk about that?
I introduced it, but we didn't go through them. I'd love to share them.
Yeah, let's talk about the different types of anxiety.
There are 9 types of anxiety. Can you believe it?
Mm-mm.
And knowing what type you have will help you zero in on treatments that will work better. I had a patient who was flying from California to Carolinas for work, and she had a fear of flying. And her doctor kept giving her gabapentin, and then they gave her Ativan, and they were giving her all these prescriptions, but she'd get there and she couldn't perform. She had to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the example I shared earlier of they gave her, finally, because she had chest anxiety, they gave her a beta blocker, and it didn't knock her out, and she didn't have any anxiety flying because her heart wasn't bursting out of its chest.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first one. That's chest anxiety. This is when our breathing gets faster, or maybe we hyperventilate, or we feel like we can't get oxygen, or our heart beats faster, or it skips a beat. It's anxiety here. And then we have thought anxiety. And this is worrying or catastrophizing or future tripping or ADHD. Sometimes that's rooted in anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe even like someone asks you a question. Have you ever had this happen? I have at the most inopportune moments where you're just like brain blank, like brain fart. I can't think. Words are hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not anxiety. We have nervous system anxiety. Anxiety can cause us to get shoulder tension, muscle tension. It can cause us to feel like we're losing finger feeling, or some people, their face goes numb. You don't need to feel details on things when we're running from a tiger. We need all that energy to our runaway muscles in our legs and in our heart, right? So we may get numb. Headaches can be rooted in anxiety. So that's nervous system anxiety. And then, of course, gut anxiety. And oh my gosh, we could talk for days about the gut. Has anyone here heard about the gut-brain axis? Yeah, we think we crave things. We think we have opinions about what we want to eat. Nope, those are your gut bugs. The gut bugs, if you have a bunch of candida or an overgrowth of yeast, it's like, get the cookies. You're like, I think I have an idea. I want cookies.
Yeah.
And the gut bugs are like, yeah, you thought of that. Right?
Right.
So the gut matters. The gut talks to the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve we were talking about earlier is that light switch into calm, right? So if our gut is out of balance and we feel maybe indigestion, or we get gassy or bloated, or we get IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and cramps, it could mean that the anxiety is rooted in our gut. And so all the therapy in the world isn't going to work if we don't work on the gut.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have endocrine anxiety. What's happening with your hormones, your thyroid, your testosterone, your progesterone, your estrogen, your adrenal hormones. Sometimes you need a good doctor to do blood work and make sure that everything is healthy and in order, because thyroid can look just like a panic attack.
Mm.
And so sometimes doctors are rushed and they don't give us the attention that we need. And it could be a totally different treatment that helps our anxiety that has nothing to do with talking about it or coping with my 4 steps. I got to get my thyroid back on track.
Right, right.
And then there's immune system anxiety, which is a big part of a post-COVID world conversation, as so many of us are inflamed and we have spike proteins and we have inflammation from the environment, inflammation from toxins, inflammation from mold, inflammation from car exhaust. And does anyone here have allergies like runny eyes, stuffy nose? Oh my gosh, same. Histamine, you've probably heard of antihistamines, yes? Some people, they feel a little better on antihistamines. And that's because histamine can be as stimulating to the nervous system as adrenaline.
Mm.
So your anxiety could be related to your immune system. And then we have trauma anxiety, which really arguably everything, the umbrella of everything is an adaptation. What did or did not happen to you, it's trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But I parsed this out separately because for some of us, like my fear of flying example,
Mm-hmm.
it was one event and that changed everything. For little Albert, it was that loud horn that changed everything. And so the therapy should target that root cause. And then oftentimes everything else will feel better. And then we have depressive anxiety, which is I'm sad plus anxious. And then anger anxiety, which is that fight part of fight, flight, freeze. That is often, I think, ignored is go to anger management. You're angry, but is it that? Or is it fear?
Mm.
Is it loss? Is it insecurity? Or is it your histamine? So I think we covered all 9.
Right, right. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
There's a free quiz in the book, and you could get this book at the library. And the library is like across the street over here. So you don't have to buy it. Go get it from the library. And there's also a free audiobook. So if you don't like reading, you can get that for free at the library.
Great. So you talked about the Haven, and we talked about possibly doing it here with the group.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to try out the Haven?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so fun for me. Thanks for indulging me. Havening, I didn't invent havening. I'm benefiting from learning havening, and I'm super excited to share it with you. It used to be called amygdala de-amplification, but nobody can remember that, let alone pronounce it. So they created the word safe haven. So how to be your own safe haven. So this is based on the idea that when our amygdala, does anyone know what the amygdala is? This is kind of advanced neuroscience here. Yeah, it's your big feeling. I call her Amy. The amygdala has big feelings. Oh my gosh, Amy's having big feelings. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling depressed. That's Amy, the amygdala, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're all going to remember that.
Yes.
So when Amy, the amygdala, gets really activated, remember logical brain we were talking about earlier? Logical brain's like offline. The body will ignore logical brain. So this treatment that you can do yourself in 3 minutes will actually help to calm Amy down and wake up logical brain so that you feel calm and in control. So this is 2 steps, and we'll do them together. The first step is we're going to think of something really mild that's kind of yucky. So for me, I'll give you the example of my dog barking. I live in an apartment, and every time someone walks by, my dog needs to scream about it. And then I get anxious, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my neighbors are going to hate me. And negative feedback because of my childhood stuff is like the worst thing ever. So I'm like, I'm going to get in trouble. So I get kind of angry and anxious when my dog screams. So I'm going to pick something small like that. So you think of something kind of mildly bothersome just for today. So that's number 1. And we'll do that. And then step 2, just to give you a preview of it, is we're going to do a touch, and then we're going to do a mental math exercise. Does that make sense? And I'll walk you through it. Okay. So if you're going to do this at home, you might get your phone out if you have a smartphone with a stopwatch and set your stopwatch for 30 seconds. So let's do this right now. So I want you to kind of notice something kind of yucky, not big. We're going to just start with baby steps here. Something kind of yucky, maybe a circumstance or an event And as you notice it, just kind of notice maybe where that yuckiness is in the body. And we're going to just notice that for about 10 more seconds. Just honoring it. You don't have to change it. We're just noticing it for about 3 more seconds. Okay. So now we're going to go to step 2. So step 2 is, you can look at me because I'll show you, is we're going to do one of 3 kinds of touch. Touch grounds the body. So we can dust off our hands if this is cozy. And we do this the whole time in step 2. Or if you want to give it a go, you can dust off your shoulders. So that might feel interesting, because dust off your shoulders. Or, this is the most researched one, is stroking down your face, forehead, down the cheeks, down the chin, whatever one you want to do. You're just going to repeat this gesture for part 2. So I don't want to mess up my bangs, so I'm going to do I'm going to do the hand. So, okay. So while you do this gesture, you're just going to repeat this touch gesture. And I want you, and what you would normally do is you would do this out loud, but you could do it in your head since we're all together, is I want you to count backwards from 40 to 0 by 2s. So you're going to start with 40,
38, 36, 34, 32, 30, 28, 26, 24, 22, 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 0.
That was so beautiful. We're going to continue the touch, and I would love to have you say your ABCs, please.
Out loud?
Yeah, let's do it. You're doing good. You're being our spokesperson.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, Z, W, X, Y, and Z.
Okay, that's so good. So normally I would do one more, but for the sake of time, we're going to rest our hands in our laps, and we're going to go back to that first yuck that we were noticing, just for about 30 seconds, and we're going to notice anything that's different about it. Did it change in intensity? Does the sensation feel any different? For about 10 more seconds, we're going to notice it. Just allowing that to be present. It's talking to us. And then in about 3 more seconds, we're going to go back to the second step. All right, let's go back to whatever gesture you want to do. And then, Tim, I'm going to have you, if you can, name your top 10 favorite food items.
Hamburger, French fry, ribeye steak, tacos, kebabs, salad, spaghetti squash, commuter sandwich from LGO. I think that was 10.
That's so good. And then let's have you spell your first and last name, but backwards.
KOORTSEWMIT.
Ooh, that was so good. And normally I'd probably do one more, but for time, we'll rest our hands in our laps. Maybe we'll even take a breath in case we've been holding it. And then we'll just notice that thing that we were observing before and notice anything different about it. And maybe you might even notice a new thought that comes with that, or a new feeling that comes with that. Sometimes it changes a little bit, and sometimes it gets even a little positive. Just depends. Whatever it is, we just notice it simply. And so we're going to finish by going back to the touch, back to the havening part. And I want you, Tim, to identify a mantra or a couple of words that feel like they would be nice, like I'm okay, or it's good, or I am. Really anything that you would want. Can you tell me, if you feel comfy, what comes to mind?
It's going to be okay.
That's wonderful. So what we do in the last step when we get there is we just repeat that to ourselves or out loud. And we notice how the body feels. And what we see is the more that we say that, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. Going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And you may do that for 4 minutes. But what will happen is the body will start to rest into that. So we'll come back to the room and we'll come back to this moment. And so this exercise that we did is number 1 is the yuck. Number 2 is waking up logical brain. And then every time we go back to the yuck, it might change a little bit. Did anybody notice a change? What did you notice?
I noticed it was just less tense
Yeah.
in my stomach muscles.
So you might have had like a little bit of gut stress, little gut.
For sure.
Yeah. And a little bit in just a couple of seconds.
Yep.
A little bit less. Anything that changes is changeable. Did anyone else notice a change?
I noticed that there was like a tingling or a release towards the back of my brain and up through my scalp.
Your nervous system was talking. So your nervous system might be your pay attention.
Yeah.
You know that moment when we go from green to yellow, that pay attention is your nervous system is one of your guides.
Yes.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love that. Did anybody else notice anything? Did anyone notice any more yuck? Did the yuck get more intense for anyone? No.
The yuck for me got softer.
Got softer.
And mine was my dog goes crazy whenever somebody comes to the door, and especially if I'm on the phone and it's just like, it's like I want to yell at him.
Yeah.
But it just got softer, and then by the end he was sitting there smiling at me.
Oh.
So it's like, that's my boy.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So you reprogram that. And the way that you wire it is the way that you'll fire it. So if we practice this and we do this even preventatively, like, okay, well, what's something that was like a little yuck today? You could do this with little yucks. You could do this with big yucks. If you're going to do it with a big yuck, I definitely recommend having your counselor or your helper, because sometimes big yucks are hard and we need someone. We need people there. And so we've built those yuck muscles and we feel equipped to do it on our own. But that's why you have this amazing team here, is to help you through the yuck.
Was that helpful? Could you guys see yourself using that in the future? Okay. So now I want to open it up to questions. So did anything that's coming to mind, any questions you'd like to ask Dr. Kane?
Evening. So we did it in the moment, but is the end result that when that yuck comes up, because mine was the exact same as yours, my dog goes crazy when someone comes over.
Yeah.
Is the end result that when that happens again, that you're not as stressed where you originally feel it? Is that the intention? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to decide how you want to feel. And that's the amazing part about it, is when I fly, because it's a great recent example of a victory, is I want to feel excited about where I'm going. I don't want to worry about flying. In my adult agency, I've chosen to buy that ticket, get on that plane, and I want to feel at least neutral about it. And so what I love about that last mantra, that mantra that you selected, is that's the bullseye that you're creating. And sometimes we're lucky if we just feel peace. Other times you might be like wanting to celebrate and dance with your dog when they act like lunatics. Or you're like, they need to go to training and I'm not going to be stressed. I'm going to do something.
Got it.
That's so good. Yes.
Thank you.
What other questions? I love questions.
I'm from Michigan too, so I relate to that. on that portion, but I have a question for you. I suffer from PTSD and flashbacks, so I relate to what you're going through, and like what you were talking about. I grew up in a very similar environment, but instead of like just watching or like watching the emotions, like why not embrace it, right? Because I live at my window of tolerance. I'm like more in hyper arousal.
Yeah.
I find that where I can use that like in high motivation settings, like like for work or this or that, but like high goal setting and stuff like that. Like, is there any like examples that you've used like your hyper arousal in those scenarios or stuff like that instead of like trying to like give a calm presence, which I feel like what you're doing right now?
So hyperarousal, so the body is producing a bunch of energy. And so you're describing that you're able to use that energy to help you be productive. And so it's really good. So that energy, you alchemize it. And so I want to make sure that I give you the most helpful answer. So I'm going to clarify the question. Is you're asking about what do we do with that hyperarousal? And are you expressing like when it's coming out at inopportune moments?
I mean, like, has there been times like when you've used, because it sounds like you've kind of hit that in different portions of your life.
Yeah.
Has there been times where you've used that like as motivation to like go through school or like speaking or like stuff like that?
Oh, girl, heck yes. Yeah. Our symptoms are trying to help us, and arousal is important. It's a matter of, is it for me, or am I the one who's directing it, or is it backseat driving and trying to control me? And so when I think about, and there's a double-edged sword to it, which I think you're wisely pointing out, is that I use that hyperarousal, that hypervigilance to get through medical school. But girl, I burned out. It's such a common thing. High performers, I've worked with high performers, worked with Brendan Burchard, I've worked with Tamron Hall, I've worked with a lot of high performers. And what you're wisely asking is a very common thing. And so I would encourage the coin flip, the yin and the yang, the shadow and the light. And so there's moments for the hyperarousal to help fuel your goals. But then we have to flip the coin and allow the body to go into parasympathetic, like that sine wave. Like I go into arousal, but then I come out. I get into the cold plunge. I get arousal, but then you get out of the cold plunge. So does that kind of fit?
Yeah, what you're speaking about like references like a lot of like what Christian Nath, I think she like did that the compassion to self. It's kind of what I'm working on right now. But like what you're explaining about like that's like a lot of like what's in that workbook and stuff like that. So
Oh,
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
thank you. I love her work, and I love the honoring of these assets that you have, that fire in your belly, I call it, that's helped you do a lot and is motivating you, and honoring the ability to be like the waves of the sea and allow that to swell and then allow that to go out, the two sides of the coin. Yay, Michigander, too.
What part of Michigan are you from?
Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids.
What about you?
I'm from Flint.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are kind of coming to the end. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about?
We talked about, let's kind of recap what we talked about. We talked about the 9 types of anxiety. We talked about how to strategize healing our anxiety. We talked about the tiger and the fluffy bunny. We talked about making a panic pack. We talked about how your symptoms are here to help you. We talked about, I think something that might be poignant for us too is medical advocacy and making sure that we are feeling seen and heard by our medical team. And I was at a conference. I was speaking at the Integrative Medicine for Mental Health conference, and one of the biggest things that came up is that healthcare is so siloed. So if you have headaches, you go to a neurologist. If you have digestive pain, you go to a gastroenterologist. If you have anxiety or anger, you go to a psychiatrist. And then oftentimes, these doctors aren't able to collaborate or communicate. And so what I want to encourage you to do is to start becoming more of an empowered advocate of your own health. And what that could look like concretely is make a binder. So when you go to your psychiatrist, is ask them to print you your treatment sheet. And then when you go to your neurologist or your pain management specialist or your therapist, ask them to make you a treatment sheet. And then make sure that when you go to your visits, that other doctors are seeing other doctors' treatment sheets. Because I can't tell you how many times I've had a patient see their PCP and then they get Zoloft. And then they go to their gastro, and then their gastro gives them Lexapro. And now they have serotonin syndrome, and the psychiatrist doesn't know that it's serotonin syndrome, so they give them a Xanax. Mm. So now you have polypharmacy happening, and you're not broken. The system is broken. And unfortunately, that means you have to be advocates for your own health. So a concrete solution for that is to have your medical records. You have a right to your medical records, and to make sure that you go to the front desk. Hey, I saw a psychiatrist. Can you scan this into my chart? Hey, I need a printout of today's summary, right? Mm. And so start advocating for yourself medically, because our symptoms aren't just from here up or just here down. It's a whole thing. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there, how can people connect with you? How can they learn more about your work?
Yes.
Anything you want to promote?
Get the book at the library. It's so great. Or if you have nothing better to spend your money on, you can buy it online. Words of encouragement are awesome. So leave a good review. And then I'm on Insta. So if you guys like to go down the rabbit hole that is social media, I post positive goodies. It's Dr. Nicole Kane. So come hang with me.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, Dr. Kane, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I'm grateful that you were able to spend some time with me today.
That was really fun. Thanks for hanging.
Yes, awesome. Let's give it up for Dr. Kane. All right. Do you guys like that?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you. That was fun.
Good stuff. Thanks so much for listening to I Love Being Sober. I hope you got something valuable from today's episode. And if you're looking for more resources on recovery, mental health, or any of the therapies we talk about, head over to camelbackrecovery.com. You can find more episodes, blog posts, and ways to connect. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep growing, and keep living a kick-ass sober life.